All right. So what do we have? So we came here and we see, hey, there's going to be people coming to Israel in the mountain, and everybody's going to go. And he's going to be judging between nations. That's what you see, the sheep and the goat nations. And he's going to rebuke many people. Wait a minute. I thought the millennium was going to be populated by um, just believers. Yes, in the beginning. But then those believers are going to start having children. Folks, it's the same thing you and I have. If you and I, my wife and I were believers, and all of our children are born to us, are they born believers or are they born sinners? Which one? They're born sinners. Same thing is going to happen in the millennium. Everybody's going to enter in as believers, but then there's going to be a problem. They're going to start having children, and their children are going to start having children, and their children are going to start having children, and they're going to be just like us, little devils. All right, so he's going to have to rebuke those people. Nobody's going to fight. There won't be any wars, any of that stuff. And their spirit is going to be in the pruning hooks. That's all that means. All that means is everybody is going to be calm. And when sin happens, God is going to step in and judge it immediately. So people are going to behave. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn any more war anymore, as long as they're in the millennium. The minute Satan gets out of that pit, he's going to entice them to go fight against God again, and they will, friends. All right, so here we are. The fifth thing that happens in the church at Smyrna. What is that? They are a synagogue of Satan. Who's a synagogue of Satan? The Jewish synagogue. Why? Why? Well, let's read. With the rejection of Jesus as Israel's Messiah, the religion of Judaism today becomes as much a tool of Satan as emperor worship. You might as well go and worship Caesar if you're going to be into Judaism today without Christ being Messiah. You are worshiping a false God. So, but it's the scriptures. I don't care if it's the scriptures. You got a different God. If Christ isn't the God of the scriptures, then you have a different God. If you have a different God, then it doesn't make a difference what book you're reading. It's like going to church, friends, and Christ isn't your Savior. I don't know who you're going there to worship, but it ain't the one true God. And it's not Jesus Christ because he happens to be that one true God. So if you have a problem with Jesus, friends, you've got a problem with salvation. You have a problem with God. Wait, what? How can Judaism, which basically is the institution of God's law, be a tool of Satan? Well, ask yourself the question. What is the basis for the giving of the law? What is it? It's found right here, starting at verse 19. So let's look at it. And this is coming out of the book of Romans, folks. Romans chapter 2, verse 12 through 16. Here it is. For all you who want to be under the law and do some works to get to heaven. Look at what he says. What purpose does the law serve? Why did God give the law? It, what? The law was added. Wait, whoa, time out, stop, time out. What does he mean that the law was added? How can the law be added to something when there was no Israel before God gave the law? How can it be possible? You see, now you're thinking. That's the question you need to ask. I hope when you're studying that chapter You just didn't walk past the added part and not ask yourself that question. Added? See? So when I'm studying, that's the kind of thing that jumps off the page at me. I would say, added? Yes. What does he mean by added? And added to what? For as many as have sinned without the law will also perish without the law. And as many as have sinned in the law will be judged by the law. Now, what did God just say to us? What do you read when you think about, now he's saying it's added. What was it added to? The first part of this. It was added on top of the sins that was already being committed without the law. And what was that causing? What was the result of the sins that was being committed without the law being present? So, did the law cause people to perish? No. How do I know that? Because the book just told me that even without the law, people were still sinning. You know what the only difference was? They didn't know that they were literally breaking a law of God, yet they were still breaking it and they were still guilty. That's what he means when he says it was added. And you're going to find out as we keep reading. But these people were sinning without the law, so it was added, but yet they were still perishing. Okay, for not the hearers of the law are just in the sight of God, but the doers of the law, listen, folks, listen carefully. Please don't read into this what most people read into what they think this is saying. I'm going to read it slow. For not the hearers of the law are what? Justified. That is, declared not guilty, declared sinless, or pardoned from their sins. So if you just hear the law, God says you can't get saved that way. That's what justification is. But the doers of the law, listen, are they saved? No. He says they will be justified. Now, I'm going to ask you a very important question. And this is what you need to be asking yourself when you read something like that. Now, ask yourself, according to the entirety of the Bible, the scriptures, has there ever been anyone who was able to keep God's law? Has anyone been able to keep the first and greatest commandment? Thou shalt have no other God besides me. Or should I say, thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. But the first commandment in the 10 Commandments is have no other God before you. So you've broken both. At conception, did you break that commandment? Yes. So that means you sin. Yes. How many sins does it take to cast somebody into hell? One. So does it matter? After your conception, since you broke the first commandment, what you do after that? No. See, that's the problem. No one keeps it. So yes, if you can keep it from conception all the way through death like Jesus did, then God will accept you. The problem is none of us can keep it. Peter confessed that. Why should we put a yoke on the Gentiles that neither we nor our fathers was able to keep? Folks, nobody can keep the law. What God just stated here, the doer of the law will be justified, is an impossibility. That's why Christ came, because nobody can keep it. You see? For when the Gentiles who do not have the law, but they do by nature do the things in the law. What do you mean, do the things in the law? God says don't murder. So when a Gentile don't murder somebody, he's keeping the law, even though he doesn't know. Just like these people before the law came, don't know that the law of God says don't murder. When a Gentile don't lie, when a Gentile don't steal, even though that they have no clue about some Bible, they have no clue about the Ten Commandments, never heard it. Folks, there's people around you who never heard the Ten Commandments. They have no idea that the Ten Commandments say, don't steal, don't lie, don't do this, don't do that. They have no clue. Why? Because they never heard it. Yes, even here in America. In my more rambunctious early Christian days, I picked up a hitchhiker. It's a young man. Started witnessing to him. And I actually said to him, you know the Ten Commandments. You know what that young man said to me? No, I don't. What are you talking about? And this guy was a teenager. He had no clue what I was talking about. So my point is what God is actually saying here. We do what it's natural because God put that fear in us and his laws written on our hearts. That's the second. As a matter of fact, that's the second restraint God gave you. The first one is your conscience. The second one is his laws written on the tables of your heart. It's the second candle.